Welcome to Talking Books TV. I'm your host, Michelle Van de Pass, and today we're going to find out about self-realization and what you can do to be more conscious in your own life. My guest today is Miss Kathleen Saneja, and she's written the book, I Am the Change I Seek, and you can also find this at IamTheChangeISeek.com. Tell me, you started this whole awakening with your own revolution in India back in the early 1970s. Can you tell me what happened back there that caused you to really step into your own power?
Good morning, Michelle. It's great to talk to you. I would say the main thing that happened was I was living in a dictatorship at the time, and it was a Soviet-controlled dictatorship. We were losing all of our power and literally shutting down the system into socialism, and that galvanized me into thinking that we would lose the 100-year democracy that India had so painfully grown since independence and under the British. So we were really galvanized into raising our voices and awakening ourselves into literally, oh my gosh, let's do something.
All this work that you did in India is quite mind-boggling. You were quite young then. How did you feel like you could just step into your power? Did you feel connected with a higher source, or were you just doing what you felt like you had to do back then?
I felt both. I felt as if it was my calling to do this. And I also felt that I had the power behind me, the higher power behind me to help me through this thing. And that literally I felt as if I couldn't fail, because there were so many people around me who also supported me in this effort, who much older than me, who saw the destruction of our democracy. When you're young, of course, you think you're invincible and nothing can happen to you. But I was prepared. I knew that the consequences of what would happen, I may be jailed, or I may be tortured, or I may be killed. And I knew that this was important, and that there would be others who would follow the path. I knew that there would be others who would stand up to this dictatorship.
You had that personal knowing, that personal power. How can we find that in ourselves today? Most of us aren't dealing with dictatorships, at least here in the United States, or oppression, but we still want to feel free. We want to find a place inside of ourselves that's empowering. What are the first steps that you suggest to help us be self-realized?
I do set out 8 steps in my book, 8 steps to self-realization. And the first one is to set your priorities. Realize that you really want it, that you need to do something in your life. It has to be an inner awakening. You have to say to yourself, this is just not right. Something's not right, and I have to find more within my being. And the second thing I say is, when you set aside time to do this, discard and reject thoughts that don't lead you in that direction. Discipline your thoughts. Get yourself into the right frame of mind to think more of what you are and how you can find your inner being. That's critical, to discard thoughts that don't lead you in that direction and choose new thoughts. Choose books and ideas and learned material, from people who have thought of this before. And I try to set out a primer in self-realization in this book, so you can follow some of the ideas that I personally discovered while I was going through the process. Much higher level of contentment. It's a much higher level of comfort within your being. You wouldn't want to find something to distract you or to entertain you. It is a comfort level that will raise you to a higher consciousness, a higher understanding of your inner being and your place in society and your place in this universe.
Consciousness and self-realization the same thing?
It's higher consciousness. I call it, I have a social consciousness. I divide it up into a social consciousness and a higher consciousness, and which has often been called a super consciousness. It's a higher level, a super consciousness where you are conscious of yourself in a whole new way. You're just self-aware. You're awakened, as you say. It's you seeing the light within you, the energy within you as you've never seen it before. You're in touch with your being in a whole new way. Each of us has it within us. We just have to search for it and find the path. And you'll find each one of us can solve our problems easier and reach our real goals, what we really want to do. And it just is accessible. I think to begin with, one has to find a quiet place. Whether you sit on the floor with your legs crossed, some people can't cross their legs. Some people don't have legs. Some people, just have disabilities. So you can sit on a chair, you can do anything, but you have to be quiet. You have to find a place where you can think for yourself and analyze your inner being and just be quiet. That place of quietness is more important than whether you have to sit cross-legged. But that's traditionally how people have done it. So it's the ritual pose, I guess. And as you quiet your being, you'll find that thoughts will come to you that you never thought of before, or things that trouble you. And that's why in one of my steps to self-realization, I said it's really important to journal. Journaling is really important when you're after meditation. So whatever the thoughts you have, write them down. If you have a problem, find the solution to the problem within you and unlock all of the knots or the difficulties or the adversities that you find, the shortcomings within you, and then release them slowly but surely. Get rid of them and just calm yourself down and find that inner being. That is the light, that is the energy within you, and that's the core of who you are. That energy will then redirect it to where you want to go and how you want to really be. And part of it, you will discover that you're raising your self-esteem. It has to be, you have to see yourself in a whole new light, that I am a being. I am much more than what I thought I was, all those knots in Pandora's box of difficulties and distractions and troubles, and oh my gosh, how do I solve this problem, running from problem to problem through life. You have to find yourself in your inner being and just let it go, let all those knots go, and then focus on that energy within you. And that's what I did to achieve what I thought was, I have a few mantras, a few simple words that I use, that I live, I love, I am. And I thought those are really important to me, to say, I live, I'm alive, and getting to know yourself as a living being. You're alive in relation to society and in relation to your family, in relation to your colleagues, and in relation to yourself. So that sense of living has to be realized in a whole new way. And loving is loving yourself in a new way, is raising your self-esteem, raising yourself, getting rid of any doubts or fears that you may have of what could happen, and learning to deal with yourself in a loving way. And am means you just are a person. You're a person whole and free. You realize you come to that place where you're just pure energy, whole and free. And you're not tied up with others. You choose what you want to get into and how you want to approach each situation as you go along. So these three things, I live, I love, I am. If you practice it in your real life, you find a whole new consciousness, and I call that super consciousness. It's realizing yourself in relation to the universe, your place in the universe. And it often is that core when you make your essential relationship that you came alone and you're going to leave alone. So You have to live with yourself in your body as you wish to live in this lifetime. And that's the core lesson of meditation, when you can, separate yourself from everybody else and all social ideas and social consciousness, find yourself, and then go forward and evaluate everything in a whole new light.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
I am the change I seek.com, and you can find out more about the book there, and of course the blog and all the links and information. I am the change I seek.com. It's been very inspiring having you here today. Thanks for being on the show.